What's up, y'all? Welcome to What That Mouth Do. Today I have my special guest. Hold on, let me turn this down. I have my special guest, Monifa. So, Monifa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Monifa. People call me Mo. I'm a social worker by career, but I'm a therapist by day and a turnip queen by night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a hot girl at night.
Hot girl.
I love to travel. I like shopping. I like spending time with my kids, and I do work a lot. So thank you, Keisha, for having me today.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so glad that you made it. So tonight we want to talk about past trauma and how it affects like present relationships. And I thought that you'd be a great guest to come on because I'm in school for therapy as well, and you are in the field. So I felt like this would be a good conversation for us to have right now. So what I usually do is I do wind down Wednesday, which is just a way to like let your hair down and have a drink while we have conversation. So I do make a drink, and I usually do one that goes with the topic. So tonight I made this. This is what I call the heartbreaker. See, it has a little blue thing at the bottom. This is like some blue Sirocco just for the coloring. But I did try this spicy mango Bacardi, and I mixed a little bit of orange juice and a whole lot of orange juice and a lot of cranberry juice with it.
It looks
So,
delicious.
yes, this is the painkiller. So this is to go with the topic tonight that we're talking about past trauma. So first, I wanted to talk about because I know we see this a lot, especially us too with what we're doing right now. Like trauma. I want to get into what trauma is and everything as well. But I was watching this interesting documentary about Chris Brown. When he was younger, he was saying how his mother used to get beat up by her husband or boyfriend at the time. Chris Brown used to say that he would go in the closet and he was so traumatized he would pee on himself, and then he would get beat up too, for doing that. So as he got older, he had a public relationship that was on, all over the social media with Rihanna, where he ended up beating Rihanna up. He talked about it in the documentary and said how him and his mom, like when all that stuff happened, they kind of cried together and certain things like that, because he was like, he would never have thought that he would do that because of how traumatized he was as a kid, seeing that. So it's just like thinking about people that see it, feel it, and like, why do they end up going in a cycle and doing the same thing to other people? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, how does this cycle keep repeating down the line? Especially if you feel it, you see it, like people go in their new relationships, they bring their old, baggage and trauma and different things like that. So I just want to know, like, what your experience is or how you feel about, the.
Just to piggyback on the Chris Brown situation, I just feel like when you have unsolved trauma, those things are going to happen because of the triggers. And sometimes you don't know what triggered you. And I think in that moment, if he never hit anybody else, like he said, in that moment, something triggered him. And that is where that situation happened. And if you're in relationships and you don't solve your trauma, those triggers are going to come back up. And then your trauma response is going to be to hit her. So I think that's what happened with him.
Yeah, it's so funny because we had a conversation last week. We were talking about cheaters. And in class this week, it seems like all my classes are kind of going hand in hand with these conversations, which is just happening because I didn't really know, we were going to talk about it. Like, I'll talk about this, and next week we'll be talking about whatever I'm talking about right now. So we did talk about cheating and like how like people, do they forgive people or do they really forgive people? And I realized, and I was saying the same thing. I said, I don't think I would be able to forgive because I'm such a person that's triggered by, little stuff like that. So I feel like I'll be sitting around and then something will happen and it'll trigger me to, be a certain way. And I feel like in my trauma, especially through relationships, it probably was like at times, where I've had like a person cheat on me or different things like that. So it's just certain things that just trigger you. You see people doing certain things and it'll make you like, but then it kind of makes you that unhealthy person in a relationship or feel like, like you're being unhealthy in a relationship. So some people start their trauma in like childhood. Some people start their trauma in like adulthood, different times in their life. And it's different things that cause the trauma. So I have my notes, which I always get all these notes, girl. I got papers and papers of notes. So hopefully we have enough time to get through this. So I wanted to talk basically about hurt people hurting people. So that's technically what I said with Chris Brown. Then you look at the R. Kellys, the Ike Turners, and different people like that. They all have a history of abuse, whether it's like sexual abuse, physical abuse, different situations like that. I try to use the celebrities because I feel like sometimes, whether people decide they want to talk about it or bring it up or we have a subject of it, I feel like people can relate with their story or know their story because they're celebrities. Their stories are like worldwide. So let's see. I want to talk about first what is trauma. So from what I did my research on, it says it's an experience that is abusive or harmful into intimate, emotional, physical relationship. This could also be sexual abuse, physical abuse, infidelity, betrayal, or abandonment. So I want to know what do you feel is like trauma? Like,
Um, I feel like everybody have trauma. My friends always tell me, everybody, I was like, you got trauma. Like, I feel like everyone has trauma. Trauma to me is past experiences that people go through traumatically in their life, and it can be as small as a dog biting you or being in a car accident. And I feel like we all go through different experiences in our trauma because me and you can be in the same car and get in a car accident and we can walk away with two different traumatic experiences. And I feel like I maybe could walk away and will never want to drive a car again. And you could walk away and be like, that was nothing. So trauma is different for everyone. It's a different face for everybody, but I feel like everyone in life goes through trauma no matter what. If you wanted to accept it or not, we all go through trauma, but we all have different trauma experiences.
I agree. And I feel like the trauma to me is associated more with fear than anything. Just fear of a person, like you said, an animal, whatever. Like something happened to you and you were scared at that moment, and now you carry this fear of a bug. You could be scared of a roach, you could be scared of whatever. Like people are really terrified of different things in their life, and they don't realize like this caused trauma. And some things may come into their relationships because it could be just as little as you going somewhere and your man or woman thinks it's a joke and they're playing with you with something, but you're really terrorized of, say, even the roach or whatever. They pull one out the thing and they think it's a joke and it's a laugh moment to them, but you're really traumatized. So in your relationships, you get with people that don't really even understand your trauma to begin with.
Exactly. And it's so funny that you said a roach. I had a client years ago because of her trauma, footsteps. When she had footsteps, she get traumatized because at night she had to sleep to hide from her abusive father. It was the footsteps that was traumatic to her. So everyone has these different traumatic experiences, but how do we move forward with our traumatic experiences? And don't
Yeah,
put
that's why I said at the end, I want to really try to get on that because it's just like, it's so hard because a lot of this stuff is like generational too. I feel like a lot of generational trauma. And I feel like things are so different nowadays with social media and different things like that, where a lot more stuff is being exposed now than it was back in the days. And I feel like people still are doing it because more, I feel like it's like mental, sometimes it's just that mental health thing and, just not having their self in check, like mentally.
Yeah, because I think it's unsolved.
Yeah. And then so next I was going to talk about what does trauma do in a relationship. So some of this is like through my research and things. I found that, okay, so some of these it says, trauma in relationships cause trust issues, communication problems, intimacy problems. It can be hard to regulate your emotions in those traumas. It can cause distancing from you and the person that you're dating or that you're with. And it can increase conflict and misunderstandings in relationships. So I feel like some people, they go through stuff in their relationships and they don't really know why they're going through the stuff that they're going through. But sometimes, to me, I feel like it's unresolved trauma. And a lot of people don't like to acknowledge that they've been through trauma. I feel like with us, it's something in the society that makes us feel like we have to be strong all the time. So it's like stuff that it's either we have to hide it from others, or we have to hide it even sometimes from ourselves, just not to feel like we're being weak in the moment. So I don't know what it is, why people do that. And I think that's probably why it's just been going on for so long, because they don't acknowledge that they've been through a traumatic experience. Just think about if a person got cheated on, right? And that's very traumatic to them. But in a sense, like watch the City Girls and different things like that, where they trying to tell you to take that trauma and the madness and kind of turn it back into something else, where you have to go back and be, this type of way just to feel like you ain't, what I'm saying? Like you don't look a certain type of way in the situation. So it's like, in those situations, people are not dealing with their trauma first. They're kind of taking a traumatic situation and then they're taking their trauma and they're putting it on somebody else, in a sense. Because you may have an innocent bystander, like, okay, so this person did this to me, now I'm going to go do that to them. But now all of a sudden, this person that I'm doing it with, they don't know nothing about it. So maybe their feelings are caught up in the situation. But I was only using this person so I can get back at, my boyfriend at the time, or whatever the situation is. So now they're taking their trauma and they're putting it on someone else.
Yeah. But I think with cheating, I don't think it has nothing to do with trauma. For me, cheating has a lot to do with insecurity issues with men. And it comes with ego and all that stuff. So to me, that comes with, I don't put cheating in traumatic. It might be a traumatic experience for someone else, but a person that's cheating to get, no, that's just you got insecurities, your ego, all that. But if I experience cheating, then I'm going to hold up a wall and I might go through your phone because I'm thinking you're cheating. So it's a difference for me.
But then you find these people that get cheated on that really are like
traumatic,
broken.
Yeah, they're heartbroken.
I mean,
but
I've seen people like that.
They self-sabotage the other relationship because they think that this person's going to cheat on me too. So that's where the past traumas come from, not the cheater, the person that's been cheated on. That's where the trauma comes in.
No, that's what I'm talking about. The person that's been cheated on. Like, this is what I'm saying, like where people bring their trauma onto other people. Like the cheater may have been cheated on in the past, or they might have, like you said, these insecurities. But now they're bringing their, whatever they're going through, and they're bringing it and it's projecting to the new person. So this person is just an innocent bystander in the situation. They came in, they had their heart open, they wanted to love, they wanted that love, that closeness, that whatever. And now all of a sudden they're traumatized, of men and men cheating on them, and like this cycle of certain things. So now they may come in with the mind that they don't want to be in that situation anymore, or they're going to be the cheater this time around, or like people try to put these defense mechanisms up to kind of protect themselves in those situations. But it's like they still haven't dealt with the direct issue at the time. So I don't know. That's why I said, like, through therapy and different things like that, like I've noticed that's like an ongoing scenario. And I feel like a lot of traumatic issues started at childhood. Like a lot of people, their stuff started with the first person that they really were supposed to trust or get that love from, or certain things like that, doing stuff to them, whether it could even come down to just a conversation. So say I was looking at I want to go into this thing, the attachment ways. So they have like these different attachment ways, where this one is like, it's more connected to, it's called disorganized attachment, which is one of the most worst attachment feelings. Basically, the disorganized attachment style, this is like a mix of anxiousness and avoidance behavior, which comes from inconsistency and traumatic childhood experiences. This is like one of the most unhealthiest attachment styles. But then they also have this other one was kind of funny to me. It's called the anxious attachment. And this just comes from having a person that was like supposed to be like a caregiver or something to a person, and say at that moment they wanted to have no, hold on, is that one? Oh, no, that's the avoidant attachment. So the anxious attachment is where a person craves that closeness and fear of abandonment. So some people have fears and trauma from being left by themselves or just people leaving them, a lot. So some of it don't even come from just like the sexual part of getting cheated on, but just being abandoned, in that sense to some people. And that causes like an anxious attachment where people get their attachments to people off of anxiousness. Then this one was kind of strange to me because this one is called the avoidant attachment, and this one is bad as well. But this one comes down from just a person, like you find those people that are like, I'm single, I want to be independent, I'm gonna be this way, whatever, whatever. But those people, they basically have an avoidant attachment situation. And on that, they suppress their emotions because they can't connect to people physically or mentally. And this one comes from them not being able to talk to people because their first caregiver, basically, they were dismissive when they decided they wanted to talk to them about situations, or they basically were distant. So I don't know, like in your life, how you feel, like even down to your first memories of just talking to people or just trying to be emotionally attaching to people through stuff that you went through or situations like that. Like they said, our past experiences, just even having conversations with people, cause like these different attachment theories. So this one right here, now this person, the avoidant person, they don't want to have a relationship because of the fact they feel like they can't connect physically and mentally with people because they don't know how to talk to people, or they don't feel secure being able to have conversations with people. So they kind of avoid relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you'll find these men or women that kind of go from person to person to person that's just like kind of worried about themselves. They kind of put their work first in certain situations like that. They really don't want no relationship or attachment with the person. So they kind of avoid having that attachment. But the bad thing about that is I feel like they lead people on a lot. Like they don't want these situations and they kind of bring their trauma onto people because now they don't want that love, they don't want that situation, but they're so used to acting a certain way in order to get what they want out of the relationship and kind of moving on.
To the next. I always feel like the attachment styles are tricky because you can have a certain attachment style as a child, and then as an adult, you have a different one. And sometimes when you get in relationships, you might have that that boy who has that mommy problem, who mama didn't like him or something. So now you're dealing with that attachment theory that he dealt with when he was a child in his adult attachment. So you get that style from that person. So attachment theories can be really tricky. So you have those boys that have mommy issues. Your mom may never hug you. Now you have a problem in your relationship and you start talking to the women that you're dating like the woman that you wanted your mama to be. So
How do you think that changes though? You said from adulthood to childhood. Like
I feel
what
like
do you think
I
happens?
feel like everyone had their attachment styles change because you're not gonna, because some kids grew up in an insecure attachment. Someone's had secure attachment. Someone slept in the bed with our mama today was like 16. Everyone has different attachment theories. But when you come out as an adult, it changes. Even like ADHD, your ADHD as a kid, but they have ADHD for an adults as well. So your attachment, it doesn't go throughout your whole life. It changes. But sometimes that if you didn't heal from your childhood traumas, that attachment theory goes with you too. So now you have two different ones.
Okay. So like which one do you think kind of overpowers the other one? Like
I don't know because which one triggers you. Because I might can date a boy who has mommy issues. Now he think I'm his mama. That didn't love him and that didn't care for him because maybe I triggered him and maybe I talk too loud or something like that. So now I'm dealing with someone who has mommy issues, and now his child traumas have come back up that he never probably knew he had. Because
Yeah.
guess what? His grandma raised him, but guess what? His mom was there. So
And I'm trying to say, because I feel like childhood trauma, it kind of lasts with people way longer. Like, even if they change as they get older, it's like, is it still in them? Especially if they never fix those issues.
oh
Like,
yeah.
you can kind of meet somebody to kind of mask band-aid and make you see things in a different view. But it's like, I feel like people's thoughts and beliefs and certain things that they've had for so long, it's so hard to change it completely. Like, at some point, like you said, those triggers or certain things will bring them back to those situations, you know?
From my own experience, I dated someone maybe a couple of years ago that I didn't even know I had childhood trauma. So I dated this person that triggered me I had to go to therapy because I'm like, why am I feeling like this? And I had to figure out I had unsolved childhood trauma that I never knew I had in my big old age.
But do you feel like they bought that trauma out of
Oh
you
yeah,
because of what
because
they?
of this particular person never dated someone like this. It's just it was the way it was just like, are you a real person? And that person brought that side out of me. And I realized I thank him today, like you help me, but in a way you kind of damaged me in the process because I had to go through that I never went through. So sometimes it would never be your trauma will never be resolved because you can't heal from something you don't talk about.
I agree.
And
And
in my
sometimes,
culture, we was always told, "Are you still like get over it?" We was always told not to talk about it, get over it. So a lot of things I didn't talk about.
or what about that rule? What happens in the house stays in the house. Like, I really feel
Exactly.
like that kind of messed a lot of people up, because I do understand certain business should stay in the house, family business. But when it comes to certain things that is affecting you that you can't talk to your family about, like, you have to be able to talk to somebody about. And now it has people keeping secrets about stuff that really is traumatizing to them. And they feel like they can't, you know what I'm saying? Can't let that go.
Yeah, and I feel like people are afraid to talk about things because they don't want to be judged.
I agree. And even like with I feel like even with my child, like, and children, I just feel like, to me, growing up, to me, I felt like I couldn't really talk to anybody, about anything that I went through. So it kind of always made me like, it's not really like nothing too crazy, you know what I'm saying, from a young age that I know of, or probably, could have recalled back to anything that really was that traumatic to me at a young age. As I got older, I feel like I've had more traumatic experiences. So to me, it's like at that point, it's like, who can you talk to? Then a lot of people have trust issues with even the people they try to talk to, because now people use stuff against you. In that sense, you have a good friend, you get mad, they get mad with you, and guess what? The first thing they want to do is tell
Bring
all your business. So it's kind of hard in situations to really know who you can trust and who you can talk to, and it might stem from just having people through your past that you connected to that were untrustworthy people.
Yeah. So I think people have to find that safe space in even in your relationships. I feel like you should have a safe space in relationships because I feel like from the beginning, we all have trauma, even if you don't want to recognize it or feel like you have it. We all had a traumatic experience in our life that some of are unresolved and some are resolved, and sometimes you are going to get triggered. So what do you do when you get triggered?
That's a good question. That's what I'm trying to get to at the end. I don't even know, because I thought of, like, I feel like therapy. I've never really cared for therapy, never thought about therapy until I got into the field. With psychology, it was a little different, but then when I switched into the therapy field, I seen that it was like a whole different dynamic of a way to talk to people. And I feel like therapy only really is going to stand out the most is what we just talked about a minute ago, not having anybody you can trust to talk to, and not knowing who you can trust to talk to. I feel like therapists are trained to basically be that person that you can talk to when you have no one else to talk to, and kind of get a lot off your mind and see how to cope and, deal with the feelings that you're that you're dealing with. So I mean, at this age, that's the only thing I really can think about when it comes to like how do people even get through their trauma is more through therapy, because I feel like just talking through it, acknowledging it, having to deal with it face on, it's different. Because I'm telling you, through my classes, I feel like I get therapy every day, and it's so crazy. There's so much stuff that's came out of me that I never even knew was there, because I really like disconnected or I just avoided it. Like I've learned to talk to people better, like in different situations and things. It's a work in progress, but so I want to know, because even when it comes to my relationships and things like that, just trying to not let, just little things that like triggers me, affect my relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like now. So it says the next thing I had on here said, "What does trauma do in a no? We did what does trauma do in a relationship?" This one is signs that trauma is affecting your relationships. So I don't know if you have any that you feel like or something that you've seen that's like a sign, that trauma's affecting like a relationship or a person, like personally.
So I think a big sign is self-sabotaging. I feel like men or women get into relationships, like they come from a toxic relationship, then they get into a more healthy relationship, and then they come in this relationship self-sabotaging because they feel like they're not deserving of this relationship, or they'll do something, start arguments, or if the new healthy relationship asks questions, they'll be like, oh, they'll avoid it because they don't want to talk about it because they're not healed. So with that, those are signs that, baby, you need to get some help.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be or in a relationship with someone that has past trauma and don't identify it.
I agree. I feel like, that to me, that's like, I feel like that's something in my relationships that I felt like, but the thing is like I never really identified with it because I really didn't recognize it was there. And I feel like maybe I became like the toxic person in the relationships because of that, and because of the fact that I really never acknowledged it, because I really, like it's like I didn't care, but it just really like I never acknowledged it. To me, if somebody tells me that they feel like I had some kind of, like what's wrong or this or that, like I would be like, nothing's wrong, like everything's perfect, like, but in my mind, like just that's why I said being in the therapy class and stuff, they brought up a lot of stuff just by things that they
It
talked about that made me realize, wow, maybe that was a traumatic situation. Didn't really seem that traumatic to me, but that goes back to what you said. Everybody deals with it differently.
Differently, yeah, it does. And it's so funny because when I started in DCF years ago, years ago, I don't even think I even told people about DCF. When we went through the training, I was like, oh my God, they should have came and picked up my mom and daddy, because I was like, that was wrong. Like it was just like all this stuff they was talking about. We had to take people kids from. They should have picked this. They should have picked me and my brothers up a long time ago. So it's just like, damn, if that's traumatic neglect, maybe they should have picked us up too. So
To
it's just
me,
like,
yeah,
it's
same.
like those things is like everybody's different. Everybody traumatic is different. And it's crazy. And I'm like, I was telling mom, I said, Mom, they should have picked y'all up because baby, this is what y'all was like. And it's crazy that your culture and your background has a lot to do with it as well.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. Like it really, really does. Because in some cultures, certain things are okay. Like people don't realize that. And I'm gonna tell you one thing. I talked to somebody about. I see, especially, and this is just from what I've seen from or heard from different people. But I've heard of a lot of like men and people coming from different countries coming and getting a lot of these sexual abuse charges, molestation charges, certain things like that. As I read up a lot of stuff in those different countries, that's not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
They can date and mess with younger girls or boys or whatever, and it's not a consequence against it until they come to America. So
Mm-hmm.
people are coming from different cultures that know their culture in one way, but then they come into a new culture that things are totally different. And now, they're basically being punished for it. And to us, we know that's illegal, that's wrong here. But then you go to another country where there's no kind of law against it.
Yeah.
So it's like in those situations, like who do you really blame? You know what I'm saying, in that situation? Because look at, like, say, what's her name? Brittany Griner. She goes to where she was at in a different country, brings a vape pen. And
Oh
she
yeah.
was going to do some real prison time behind that. It's just a vape pen. But you come here and people are vaping on TV. They're vaping down the street. It's not a problem. So it's really like just going into different countries and cultures and trying to cross your past in that. Like, who's to really blame in those situations? You know,
And
like
but
somebody.
then also for us dealing with living in, like for me and you, like living in Florida and so diverse, you date other men from different cultures, Americans, especially Haitian men, no disrespect, but Haitian men, they just move different.
Yeah.
And then you have the Bahamians, then you have the Africans. So you have to, I can imagine women dating these different type of men have to deal with their past trauma and dealing with their culture. Baby, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And you
It's a
know,
lot.
one thing I did learn, even like when we talk about when it comes to social work, therapy, things like that, there's a lot of abuse from kids on kids.
Oh
Think
yeah.
about these kids that sexually abuse each other, you know, and not really know. Like, who's to blame in that situation? Like, is it the parents for not talking to them about sex and exposing them to different things at a younger age, or thinking that they're too young to know about this? Or is it, you know, like, who do you blame in these situations? Because it's like at some point, it's like the educational system in somewhere there's like some kind of disconnect. So when you go to talking
Yeah.
about how to deal with trauma and get through trauma and to maybe avoid certain things that could be traumatic to other people, it's just the education system, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I go
think
to class
social
and I
media.
see, yeah, social media as well. But even like at the school, if I sub and I go, I can see kids just touching each other, just like all day. I mean, and I'm like, to me, it's kind of like triggering to me to like an age where they have to realize you don't put your hands on other people, even though it seems innocent and playful and things like that. But some kids just don't understand that no means no. So it's just like I find myself over and over and over again when I'm there, like, don't touch anybody, don't touch this person,
I know
keep your hands to
boundaries.
yourself. Yeah, like the kids, they're like just all over each other. And we see it and we're like, oh, it's like that. But the thing is, like, it's cute to us, it's okay, but does this person want to be touched at this time? You know, or they just going along with it because, you know, we're making it an okay thing. Like, people should be able to say, okay, no. Like, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be touched in that way. And people got to learn to keep their hands to themselves. You know, even when it comes to abuse, certain things like that. I don't believe in like even a woman hitting a man, but I don't believe in a man hitting a woman. So to me, it's just like, at that point, do you tell your children, like, as a boy, if somebody hits you, not to hit them back? Yeah, no, but it's like it's a physical strength thing. But then again, there's women that are stronger than men. But it's like it's a role, you know, it's a situation where it's a role thing. Like, women are okay to do certain things that men are not. But in the same sense, you don't put your hands on people, like, period, you know, men or women. To me, that's what I believe in. I just get to the point now where I'm like, okay, like, where's the consent? You know, even with the young kids, they don't know nothing about consent. They don't know that, you know, everybody's not okay to touch you, bother you if you don't want to be bothered, you know, because people like push it on them that, oh, you're being a certain way by, you know, it's being like, no, or, you know, I don't know if you, but I feel like it'll avoid like so many cases,
With kids.
especially with kids. And
I
even
just
with kids with adults, because they don't know that certain things are not okay.
I feel like every child should be evaluated at every school. Every child was evaluated in the beginning, and I think life would be so much better.
It would, and I feel like they need to do education, like sex education from like a way younger
I
age.
think so, but I think nowadays, because even when my kids, even when just was like 16, 17, she's like, you watch it? I was like, why are you watching that? It's just like social media and other kids they're exposed to other things. And my kids went to a private school for like 2, 3 years, and they had a rule that your kids can't bring phones to school. And I kind of had a problem with it. And after a couple of months, I thought about it. I was like, you're right. Because phones cause so much issues and
Oh
problems.
yeah,
They don't need a phone in school.
and they can look up anything right then and there.
And
Like, hey, let me
kids
show you this.
show you things. And I can remember being a kid in middle school, and it was a girl who was and sexually active. She used to come to school and tell us all. We was in 6th grade, and we used to sit there and listen to her. And I was in 5th grade,
Yeah.
and she was dating a boy in high school. So how can my mama? She didn't know that this girl was coming to school telling her whole experience.
And it's
So
funny because we talked about that in class of like how we learned about sex, and a lot of people
and
never
it's
learned
so
from their
funny
parents.
because it's like how would that got prevented? This is my friend in school, and she just tell us about her life experiences, her weekend.
Yeah. And then some people get curious. You find those people that get
They
curious
get
about
curious.
what's going
I
on and they
I
want to
used
do
to
it too.
listen, but I couldn't do nothing. I was threatened. My mom was gonna kill me. But I used to just listen and be like, okay, and what happened? And okay, and it's crazy because this is what you have to remember. Our kids don't listen to us. Don't even give them advice. Kids listen to their friends off their experiences. I don't care how good of a child you raise, that child is going to grow up to whoever they want to be.
But do you think it's because people are talking about these situations with people too late? Because we were like, what age can you start to talk to children about sex?
I feel it goes on your child because I feel like my child, I didn't do it too early because she's curious.
Yeah.
So if you expose something, they're going to want to know.
I feel like I tried to talk to my daughter from a really young age. As long as she was able to talk, like I tried to start, like easing like conversations in about stuff. And I feel like
The
at this
safety
point,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, and
Like
I feel like at this
the
point
good
she'll still talk
touch.
to me a lot, but sometimes she won't. But it's like to me, I feel like at this point, like I kind of know, like if she's, like being a certain way and certain things that I'm like, okay, like what's going on, like what's the problem, whatever the situation is. So I don't know. And then it's like either way, you still can have a lot going on and think that you know everything, or that you think that they're telling you everything, and they're not.
No, kids will always surprise you. But I feel like we had sex education in middle school. We
No, but
had
that's
sex.
why I said by then it's too late. You know how many kids was pregnant in my middle school? We
Oh
had
my.
a lot of my friends that was pregnant in middle school. So to me, it was like it was too late. Like you find elementary kids that have already experienced stuff that you don't even think that they've experienced because they're so young.
Yeah.
We're with trying to keep them their innocence, but the thing about them is some of them, their innocence have been taken away before you even realize that, that they even know what innocence or could spell innocence. So it's just like now they have these traumatic issues from back then, with the people that they trusted and that was around them that they expected to treat them well or to protect them. And those have been the people that kind of, went against them. So now they take their traumatic experience out on their friendships, their relationships. You can see like through the years they just can't seem to keep anything like a healthy relationship with anybody because they don't have any trust for anybody.
Yeah, that I can see that, and I can see how past trauma can keep certain people into certain isolations.
And some
Because
people go a lifetime and can't have a real healthy relationship. Like they
because
just
it be so traumatic.
yeah.
It's
And like
traumatic.
you said, some people deal with it differently. Some people sweep it under the rug and act like it never happened. Then you find that one person every time they see, anything, they're like crying. It's like, they're shaking. It's just like everything just traumatized them. They
Yeah,
can't function. They can't function regularly like a daily basis because they're so traumatized.
but then you get people that are trauma, know they got past trauma, and get in relationships and traumatize the next person.
That's why I said the baggage. They come in with their trauma and their baggage, and they literally they project it onto the next person. So this person never experienced trauma at that time till that moment, but now they got in this relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like some people might not have experienced
They're
it in
resilient.
childhood.
Yeah,
It's just at different stages in life. Like you could be 30, 40 years old and just, have your first real traumatic experience because of the person that you're dealing with.
yeah. And traumatic events are different because I can date a guy, or this one guy can date two different women. You hit me, I don't call the police, but you go hit Keisha, and Keisha gonna call the police. So
Yeah.
two different women, same man, but two, because I might have resilience because I might see somebody that got beat up and we gonna work through this. But Keisha said, hello, 911, come get him. So
Yeah.
it's different for everybody. Traumatic experiences is totally different. And I think if people understood that more, life would be so much better. People just they're different. You might say, I'm a police at, you understand? And me, mama might be there. Why you calling police on my son? Maybe Keisha got moved on her life and got to her health relationship because she got out. But you got me sitting here being dumb, stayed in it, trying to help you. Now I'm all messed up because I done went through traumatic experience with you. Now I'm traumatic.
Exactly. Just trying to be that good person to somebody that's being a bad person to you. And it's like you feel bad for them because you know something is wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if it takes a man to really beat up a woman, like some of those things that you've seen, like I've seen just on, like literally watching it, like look at what's his name, Puff Daddy, beating up the girl. Like, you know, it's one thing to be in a situation, but to see it like happening to a person where you're like looking at it like, dang, you know, like this person needs to get out. You know, it's just like it brings up things in you, but then like you could have been in the same situation where at that moment you're like, you couldn't see things clear at that moment because like you said, like you were in it for all the wrong reasons at the time, or you cared more about that person than you probably cared about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Or out of fear, different situations. You know, that's what I said. All
at
that.
that time, yeah. Or at that time, then you have to look at the person that person did it to. Because now, maybe that person had trauma, unsolved trauma that she didn't know she had. That's why she called the police, because maybe she witnessed that as a kid. And Keisha didn't. So Keisha was like, this ain't normal to me.
Or
So
she's
that
scared. You know, fear.
that
Fear does a lot to
generation.
people.
Yeah, because Keisha said, oh no, I'm gonna call the police. So, but Mo be like, no, like, he all right. He just drunk. But
And
no.
it's crazy because that's why I said, like, I've even like in past traumatic experiences, even just with dating or just even having like those altercations where it just seems like, okay, this could be a little normal, maybe this ain't normal or this or that, but then you look at somebody else's situation, go through the same thing, you like, what's wrong with this person? Like, why wouldn't they do this or why wouldn't they do that? But it's just like so different, you know, like when you're in that direct, it's just like perspective.
Yeah, I stopped judging people. I would never do that. You'll never catch me saying that because you never know what people
You
go
would do
through
into your
and what you're doing in a situation, and you don't know why those people choose those different actions. Because I would never like
yeah,
judge
and I
people.
always tell people
Maybe
never
you
say
did it.
never.
Yeah, because you don't know why that person reacted like that because you don't know. And people have to understand too, when you say something to someone and they react, you can't get mad how someone reacts either.
And the thing about it is like people always say, okay, well, I would never this and I never that. But like they tell you, like, keep living. Like you have so much years for stuff to happen. You know, I've known people that have never been sexually abused until they became like 80 years old or to the point where they couldn't, you know what I'm saying? So people go through different phases in their life where when they become not as easy to help themselves or can't help themselves. Like, look at the nursing homes. You know, there's a lot of sexual abuse and things happening just people's grandparents in the nursing home. Like, I worked in a nursing home. So I know, like, and I've heard different stories and things where people just don't realize, like, it's never too late or in situations and stuff. You really have to know and be able to see certain things that okay, I have this parent or whoever in the nursing home, whatever, like I start seeing certain things and paying attention to different little things and educating yourself on like the things that could happen because people don't think it could happen. And I think that's the first thing that's wrong with people because they don't feel like it can happen or it can happen to them because they do this and they do that and they, you know, that's it doesn't keep you exempt from people because it's not you, it's the person. You get around a bad person and they can make a lot of stuff happen in your life that you thought you would never.
Yeah, and a lot of people think in environmental. It can happen anywhere. People feel like, oh, your kids go to school in this ghetto, or your kids go to school in a nicer neighborhood. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It really
It
doesn't.
doesn't matter what school your kids go to, or where they go at, or who they're around, baby. You'll be surprised who doing what, and
Yes,
what
for
culture
real.
doing it. So people feel like it protects. It doesn't protect you.
It
Yeah,
doesn't. I think
we
social
all.
media kind of helps to reduce and expose a lot more stuff, which I think is a good thing because a lot of people are more open to talking about things. They can reach out to a lot more people in one you know what I'm saying, in one conversation, or just different things like that. That's why I kind of like the podcast, because I feel like it's a good way to kind of educate people, you know, with like maybe things that I've learned that I feel like I can kind of spread the word to people to kind of advocate, you know what I'm saying, for people that don't know what to do or don't even experience certain things as being that experience. Like whether it's traumatic to you or not, like, yeah, that's not a good thing. You know, even if you think it's okay, it's not okay, you know? Certain things are just not okay.
Yeah, and I think people that has went through a lot of traumatic experiences, you have to be careful on the people that you date, because you can be a person that went through a traumatic experience like being raped, and your partner might say, "Oh, I don't want to go there because it's too dark," and he'd be like, "Oh, you still up? Get over there and rape." People
Yeah,
say that to people, and I hate it. You cannot tell somebody when to get over something.
you
And
can.
you can't. And women, men, whatever, you have to learn to look for those red flags. If you're in a relationship and people are dismissing your feelings and something that you don't feel comfortable with, those are the times you have to run. Because if not, all you're doing is standing something traumatic against yourself more first. And and that's for people that's been healed, and you know those are your triggers. And those people don't understand that, you got to get out of that. Because people
What
dismiss
do you
feelings.
what do you feel like toxic is? Toxic relationships. When you hear toxic relationship, what comes to mind?
I don't know, because sometimes I like toxic in certain things. It's kind of cute. Like it be like it depends, because toxic can be anything of what I think what you make it. Because I only toxic for me is to funny, and that's it. I don't like to get violent or nothing, but I like the cute, like, girl, get off that phone, or who you over there talking with. Like, to me, I think that's toxic, but it's kind of cute too. But toxic is like, you gotta drive my car and pick me up for work. Like, I ain't got no friends. I got, like, we go to happy hour all the time at work. Why you not going? I got friends like that can't go to happy hour.
Yeah.
That's toxic, because he ain't letting
Because
you go.
that man just think
Ain't
that
letting you go.
somebody there they going to meet up with that.
So those toxic things, like, you could be a little controller, but baby, when you look, it's too toxic for me.
Yeah.
You always want to argue when it's time to go out. You're toxic.
I feel like too, having two people in a relationship with unresolved trauma
Yeah,
is
toxic.
toxic. Because now you know, somebody has to be the logical one in the situation. Somebody has to be the one to kind of take control in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? You have all this negativity going on, and now all of a sudden you have somebody else that has this negativity going on. So y'all putting negativity on top of negativity instead of this person saying, hey, you know, at this moment, we need to, you know, like trying to redirect things. You know, you get somebody that comes from healthy, like a more healthy attachment we talked about. So they're in their secure attachment. And then they have somebody that's like in a, you know, like which one did we put? The one of the worst
Avoid,
toxic yeah,
avoid,
attachments. So we have, which one is it? The
avoidance.
disorganized.
Oh,
So you
disorganized.
have somebody from a secured with a disorganized. That's better, because now this person knows how to handle conflict. They talk to their family. They see how, you know, they see in a healthy relationship and how to handle different things. And now they can help you through your trauma. But then you have two people that are too disorganized attachments. They're attached for the wrong reasons. Every time something happens, this person gets this loud. Now this person goes this loud. You know, this person starts with a, you know, poke. Now this person wants to punch. It's just like they're just fighting over who's going to be more or worse to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But it also could be trauma bonds. And that's why people in a relationship stay together so long, because the trauma bond is something they feel comfortable in. And
that's funny. I started to read on trauma bonding. I didn't even get through the whole thing. So if you
yeah,
know
trauma
something
bond,
about it,
yeah, because it's a lot of people in trauma bond relationships.
tell me, what is it? Because
Trauma
I've seen
bond
it.
is where you feel like, I might could have came from a relationship where my mom hit on me. I mean, I saw my dad hit on my mom, and I get with a guy who hits on me. So now he's like, it's a bond. So it's something familiar for them. So they bond
So they
together.
don't see it as, but they don't
And,
see it as a bad thing. They think that it's a good thing.
oh, he okay, or it's a bond for them. So they bond with their same traumas. It's like you said, that same, and it's toxic.
You think that happened with Chris Brown?
I don't know, because we only saw one episode of that.
No, it was
Nobody,
his. No, it was his documentary. You got to go watch it if you didn't watch it. It was deep.
I heard about it, but I mean, Chris Brown they only showed that one incident. They said it only happened one time. I don't believe it only happened one time, so I never watched it.
But even if it was that one time, he said as a kid, he used to go sit in the closet and pee on himself. His mom was getting beaten up in her
I don't.
relationship.
I don't know.
And it was so traumatic to him. Like, he would pee on himself and get beat up and get abused behind it. But now it's like you were that traumatized. They could just sit in the closet, feeling that scared. And now
Yeah,
you
because
go.
that's why. Yeah, I could believe that for him, but
Even if it happened one time, say it happened just one time, but it was just that worse where you blacked out and you just did it. Like, how do you even feel comfortable putting that trauma and how you felt that day on somebody else and making them feel that way? Like,
yeah, that's why I don't think that happened one time. To stem up to that, no.
Yeah, because it
You
was
can't
really
make
bad.
me.
Maybe
Yeah,
it never was as bad as that,
it
but it probably was baby
yeah.
steps leading
She
into it.
probably triggered him, and when she hit him across his head or whatever she did or whatever, she probably triggered him. And knowing, I don't know if she knew his past trauma. Women can be very, like, we can push men sometimes. And if you knew he went through that, like, as a woman, you wrong too. Like, you should put your hands on him.
But maybe she didn't know.
Well, I don't know. They
Do
didn't
you
go into
think
that.
that some people could probably, like, be in a situation where they want to see how the other person would feel? Like, say that he wants to feel like how the person that did it felt that day.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I think I'm not a fan of telling my new relationship what I went through in my past.
Yeah, because they can use that against you at some point.
Not
That's the
even
same thing I
use
said
you
too.
against you. That's like treating you like the other person.
Listen, I'm the same way too. I try, like, I'll put certain things out, and it's not because I don't want to talk about it or have communication about that. But the thing about it is, I don't want you feeling like now that that or feel that I let that happen at that time or
So
whatever.
now you can do it to me.
Yeah, or you see that it traumatized me. Now you want to use that to traumatize me when you're upset with me and have nothing else to bother me with. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the same thing. I said the same thing too. I don't believe in putting too much out, especially when it comes to things that are traumatic to you, to your new spouse, because if they really want to hurt you, they know exactly where to go to hurt you.
Yeah, and I think it becomes toxic because now you're treating me like the person I just told you I didn't like anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you treating me like this? I just told you that Bobby punched me in the back of my head. Now you want to come punch me in the back of my head. No. So guess
It's
what?
control. The
I'm not
control.
telling you nothing because now I want you to be who you really are, not what you think
Yes.
I'm gonna accept. So yeah, I think a lot of trauma passed, but I feel like if she knew, then yes, you can't trigger somebody into something that you know is a past trauma for them. And if Chris Brown's depend on himself, baby, you need to get help. All that money you got, you should have got you some help.
Maybe that's why I said maybe that situation brought him to talk about the situation. So she could have
Yeah,
been
because
like
he was
how me, where
going
I'm
to,
like, okay, I'm not gonna
baby, we
let
was in his
my
career,
bridge home.
baby. We
Yeah,
was going to end him, of
yeah.
course. But all the money you got, you need to get help. Get help.
And I'm hoping he probably did. Maybe he don't disclose it as much right now, but I'm hoping that he would have. So the next thing, because I know we're probably down to about the next 10, 15 minutes, will be it goes by fast. Like, when we start talking, it really, like. So, okay, I want to talk about, so we talked about earlier signs of traumas that affect your relationships. So certain things that I've researched, it says avoiding certain topics. If you want to know, like, signs that somebody has dealt with trauma, maybe in the situation where you may think that they're just being a certain way or whatever, but now you can kind of probably pinpoint that in your relationship. This person might have dealt with some kind of trauma. They avoid certain topics. They avoid certain activities or triggers. Certain things are very triggering to them. Assumptions that they are negative towards their partners, like assuming that they're going to be doing this and this and that just because, what I'm saying, they're doing like a regular activity. Defensiveness. Um, they get startled by little things, like you said, the footsteps, could be traumatic. Not excited about doing activities with their partners, including sex. Disconnected feelings from their partners, negative emotional feelings, partner irritates them. I mean, a lot of partners irritate you, but yeah, like if you're like just feel overly irritated all the time, it's something, triggering there. Then they have that you don't sleep well. Some people don't sleep well at night. You can't focus on your partner, or it's hard for you to love your partner. You may feel love for them, but you feel no connection of that love to your partner. So those are just different signs to let you know if you're in a relationship and you feel like there's a lot going on, but you just can't ever feel like you can't figure out that partner or what's going on or why they're acting this way. They could have a traumatic experience that they haven't dealt with before. And one thing that I did assume before that everybody has what's it called? Trauma. And like you said, they have trauma, but some people don't experience this trauma and they don't feel like it's trauma to them. So we can't say that they all had trauma, but at some point in time, they may have to deal with something that is traumatic to them because people are fearful of different things. What it is, we don't know. And like, if they don't share it with us, we don't really know. So we can't say just because it scared us that it's going to scare you. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I left off. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before?
Let me see. We went over attachments. I think the healing and moving forward part. Are you getting to that part?
Well, yeah, we're heading out. We're getting ready to close off. So, like, if you have any closing, like where it goes to like where we go from now, I'm gonna just before we go there, I wanted you guys to know that it says surprisingly, we talked about unhealthy and healthy attachment styles, but surprisingly, at least 50% or more people have secure attachment styles, which is good. But it does leave about 40% of people that are living with unhealthy attachment styles. So even if you imagine with those 40 something percent of people, again with that 50% of people, you are probably, if you don't know someone that is having an unhealthy attachment style, you may be that person that is having that unattached healthy style in your relationship. So it is something to kind of focus, reevaluate yourself, and just reevaluate your situation and look at some of the reoccurring patterns in your relationship to see if any of these fall under any kind of unhealthy attachment styles.
Yeah.
So to me and my I would say we're gonna get ready to close out in a minute, but to me, my advice would be, seek therapy. I don't think it's nothing wrong with therapy. Like at first, I just never acknowledged it or felt anything towards it. But now in the field and just seeing just how certain things is coming out for me, just talking about it to people and learning about it, it is something that I feel like is helpful for people. And in future instances, just educating yourself on situations, not being ignorant to different situations and topics, like talking about it and being more aware of what's going on in your community or even in your household. That's
Yeah.
my advice, to just educate yourself and just become more aware.
Yes. For me, for my closing, I feel like healthy, being healing and moving forward, I feel like you all should try to find some type of self-awareness. Once you gotta admit it, like the first step, then you have to move into therapy. I feel like a lot of people don't want to sit in a chair, and it's not that There's a lot of online therapy available, a lot of virtual therapy, a lot of phone calls. Um, to even put out their resources. There's a lot of free clinics. Memorial Hospital has one outpatient behavioral health. You can walk in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I feel like a advertisement, but that's free. If you don't have insurance, always call your insurance. If you have insurance, always call your insurance and see what mental health services they offer. But it's so much things since COVID. There's a lot of things you can do online. There's always a lot of support groups. Maybe you don't want to go to therapy by yourself. Maybe you want to do a support group, but always get the help that you need. And I just feel like you always need a team. You just can't do life by yourself. So
Yes.
you gotta look at it like therapy is just it's a tool to help you get through life, and let's break the cycle.
Yes, let's break the cycle. Generational curses are real. Generational patterns and relational patterns and unhealthy behavior is real. And I mean, if you really want that relationship, you want that situationship, even if you want that love for yourself, you gotta fight for it. So you gotta do what you gotta do to, continue to support yourself, support your friends, support others, and try to build those healthy connections, secure attachment styles. Because there's no way that you can't be in a bad attachment style today, and like you said, work on being a secure attachment style. You can forgive, you may not forget, but at the end of the day, you'll know how to kind of handle that and kind of get through those situations. So I agree with everything Monifa said. So I think we're down to our hour now. I want to thank you again for coming on to What That Mouth Do. Y'all go check us out on every major platform. We're on Pandora, Spotify, anything you can think of, Apple Podcasts. Just go ahead and type in what, WHAT, that, THAT, mouth is MOUF, do. And you can find us. So go back and listen to the past shows or listen to this one. Tell a friend to tell a friend, share. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Monifa.
Thank you for having me.
No
Follow
problem.
me on Instagram, the real Monifa.
Yes, go follow her, the real Monifa, and you have a safe trip.
To Thailand, yes.
Yes.
I'm
And we'll
excited.
talk soon.
Okay, love. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Oh, hold on. I think I got to stop recording.
What'd you say? What that mouth? What is TH?